October 1942. The city of Sevsk, along the war-torn Eastern Front, was crawling with German troops. Artillery shells tore through crumbling streets. Every building that still stood was riddled with smoke and fire. Amid the chaos, a young Soviet woman lay hidden in a trench, her rifle clutched to her chest, her eyes scanning the approaching enemy. She was outnumbered, outgunned, and exhausted. Yet she made a choice no one could have imagined. She had already fought through days of relentless attacks. Her comrades around her were falling one by one. Bullets tore through walls and earth. The Germans thought victory was inevitable. Then the unthinkable happened. The ammo was gone. Her rifle clicked empty. The enemy soldiers rushed toward her position. Panic should have been her reaction, but she smiled through the dust and smoke, pulled the pins on her grenades, and detonated them. One explosion, two explosions. The advancing Germans were thrown back. Her body was gone, but the legend had just begun. This was Natalya Kovshova, a young sniper whose courage and precision would make her one of the most feared and celebrated female soldiers of the Eastern Front. Natalya was born in 1920 in the village of Yasnoye, a small settlement in the Smolensk region. The daughter of farmers, she grew up learning resilience, patience, and resourcefulness. She was not destined for war, but the harsh realities of life in the Soviet Union forged the foundations of her endurance. When the German army invaded in 1941, Natalya, like countless young Soviets, faced a choice: stay in the relative safety of her home or join the front. She chose the front. At 21, she left her family behind and enlisted, driven by a fierce desire to defend her homeland. Her early life taught her adaptability and observation, traits that would later define her as a sniper. She was not naturally athletic, but she was precise, patient, and unflinching. These qualities made her ideal for one of the most dangerous roles on the battlefield, a sniper. After enlisting in late 1941, Natalya was initially assigned to general infantry duties. She experienced the brutal reality of frontline combat almost immediately. Long marches through freezing mud, constant shelling, inadequate supplies, and the death of comrades in every engagement. Her superiors noticed her exceptional calm under fire. Unlike others, she didn't panic under artillery barrages. Her marksmanship was natural. She could remain completely still for hours, her rifle steady, her eyes scanning for even the faintest movement. Recognizing these traits, her commanders recommended her for sniper training. At the Soviet sniper school near Smolensk, Natalya was tested physically, mentally, and emotionally. She passed with distinction. The instructors noted her focus, patience, and lethal accuracy, calling her a born sniper. The training was grueling. Each day, Natalya spent hours learning camouflage techniques, blending into snow, dirt, and debris. Silent movement, crawling over frozen ground without leaving a trace. Advanced marksmanship, firing at extreme distances and under varying conditions. Target prioritization, officers first, sentries next, then riflemen. Observation and intelligence gathering, reporting enemy positions while remaining unseen. She trained in all seasons, learning to survive and fight even in the harshest winters. Her instructors were impressed by her mental endurance. While other recruits faltered under psychological stress, Natalya thrived. Hours of boredom, cold, and hunger could not shake her concentration. By the time she graduated, she was not just a soldier, she was a hunter of the German army, ready to operate behind enemy lines. Her first assignments were simple: overwatch patrols, eliminate sentries, and gather intelligence. Even these routine missions were deadly. German patrols were alert, the terrain was unforgiving, and any mistake could be fatal. In her first major kill, she waited in a snow-covered trench overlooking a supply path. A German officer appeared in the distance. One precise shot. He collapsed silently into the snow. Word of her effectiveness traveled quickly within her unit. She was still young, still learning, yet she displayed a cold, calculated efficiency that startled even veteran soldiers. Within weeks, Natalya was trusted with increasingly difficult missions. Recon patrol disruption, waiting for hours, sometimes days, to eliminate German patrol leaders. Observation and sniping, noting artillery positions and neutralizing enemy observers. Defensive overwatch, protecting retreating Soviet units while under heavy fire. Her skill set rapidly grew beyond a typical recruit. Senior officers observed her ability to anticipate enemy movements, to remain calm while comrades fell around her, and to execute missions with minimal exposure. She began to develop personal tactics, always selecting rotating firing positions, using decoy nests to mislead German snipers, preferring long-range kills for strategic impact, operating independently whenever possible. Natalya's first encounters with enemy snipers were tests of endurance. Unlike regular infantry engagements, sniper duels required patience over hours, absolute concealment, and perfect timing and precision. Her first duel came near a ruined village. German sniper fire struck near her position. Calmly, she analyzed muzzle flashes, waited for movement, and eliminated the enemy sniper with a single shot. That encounter taught her two critical lessons. Never underestimate the enemy's skill. Survival requires adaptation at every second. Her confidence and precision grew, and so did her reputation. Natalya had already begun independent operations, infiltrating forward positions to neutralize officers, observing troop movements for strategic artillery strikes, operating in harsh terrain without support. These early missions, though fewer in number, showcased her psychological resilience, deadly efficiency, and the fear she would soon instill in the enemy. Her journey from ordinary village girl to lethal sniper was underway, and the world had yet to see the full extent of her courage. By late 1942, Natalya Kovshova had fully transitioned from novice to a sniper trusted with critical assignments. Her commanders recognized that her skill set went beyond mere marksmanship. She had intuition, patience, and the ability to read the battlefield like a chessboard. Her first significant assignment involved protecting a Soviet supply line in a snow-laden forest near the outskirts of Smolensk. German patrols had been ambushing supply convoys, halting vital reinforcements. Natalya was deployed with 2 spotters to eliminate the threat and restore the line's safety. For 3 days, she remained motionless in the cold, icy undergrowth. The snow around her was disturbed only by the occasional bullet hitting trees or the soft patter of enemy boots. Hours stretched into an eternity, yet she remained calm, eyes scanning, finger poised. On the 4th day, a German officer stepped onto the exposed trail. Natalya fired without hesitation. He fell, silent, and his men froze. One by one, she eliminated the advancing patrol, keeping the supply line open. By the time her unit moved in, the enemy had been neutralized, her first official series of confirmed kills. This mission marked her first taste of the fear she could instill. The Germans had no idea the shadow watching them from the snow could strike with such precision. With every mission, Natalya's ability to infiltrate deep into enemy territory grew. She learned to move silently across frozen rivers and shattered streets, use abandoned buildings and rubble as cover, anticipate enemy patrol schedules, select firing positions that gave her maximum observation while remaining concealed. Her signature approach became waiting in positions for hours or even days until the enemy exposed themselves. During one mission, she infiltrated a German outpost disguised as rubble. Over 3 days, she picked off sentries as they changed shifts, neutralizing the command post entirely without alerting the enemy to her presence. These operations established her reputation among peers. Natalya Kovshova was not just a sniper, she was a ghost. Natalya's first real sniper duels tested her patience and nerve. German snipers were trained and experienced, especially along the Eastern Front. Her first duel occurred when she engaged a German sniper positioned in a partially destroyed house near her observation post. Natalya remained in position for 6 hours, careful not to reveal movement. The German fired sporadically, trying to draw her out. Using the sound of the wind and reflection off snow, she calculated his trajectory. One precise shot later, the German sniper was down. Over the next several missions, she faced similar duels. Each victory reinforced her fearless reputation and honed her skills for long-range engagement, camouflage, and mental endurance. Her kill count rose steadily, and by the end of the year, she had already neutralized dozens of enemy soldiers while remaining almost invisible to German intelligence. Word of her effectiveness spread through the Red Army units. Her superiors began to trust her with more critical operations. Officer eliminations to destabilize German command, recon missions behind enemy lines, protection of key supply routes, coordination with artillery units to maximize the damage of each kill. Her reputation was still largely classified. Enemy forces only knew of a ghostly presence that killed relentlessly. She became a silent weapon that influenced the course of skirmishes before infantry even arrived. Her comrades admired her skill and nerve. One of her spotters remarked, "Natalya doesn't shoot to kill, she shoots to win the battle." This mindset became her hallmark: precision, patience, and strategic impact.
Not all missions went smoothly. On one operation near a German outpost, Natalya's cover was nearly blown by an unexpected patrol. Bullets shredded the earth around her, splintering wooden beams. She remained perfectly still, calculating her next move. Using a decoy firing nest, she lured the enemy into exposed positions. 2 patrols eliminated, and she escaped without a scratch. Another time, during reconnaissance for a critical supply route, she encountered a German sniper team in an abandoned village. She was outnumbered and outgunned, but she used misdirection and terrain advantage to eliminate 3 enemy snipers consecutively, leaving the rest in retreat. These early encounters forged her tactical mind, preparing her for far deadlier confrontations. By mid-1943, Natalya Kovshova was no longer just a sniper, she was a force multiplier. Supply line security destroyed German ambushes and allowed reinforcements to advance. Officer eliminations targeted key command personnel, slowing enemy offensives. Deep reconnaissance support guided Soviet artillery and infantry to avoid German traps. Patrol neutralization reduced enemy patrol effectiveness through fear and precision. Her work began affecting strategic outcomes, not just tactical skirmishes. Commanders reported higher morale in units under her overwatch and observed that enemy troops became hesitant, slowing operations in sectors where she was deployed. Though still young, Kovshova was noted for teaching newer snipers camouflage techniques, advising junior soldiers on patrol tactics, mentoring spotters to operate efficiently under pressure. She was building a reputation not only as a killer, but as a mentor and tactical guide. Even at this stage, she was trusted to shape future operators, though her primary role remained lethal sniper missions. By the end of this phase of her career, Natalya had survived her first real duels. She had neutralized dozens of enemy soldiers. She had become a strategic asset in her division. She had earned recognition among peers and commanders. Yet this was just the beginning. The most intense missions, the most confirmed kills, and the legendary final martyrdom that would make her a lasting symbol of bravery were still ahead. By mid-1943, Natalya Kovshova had transformed from a promising sniper to a formidable battlefield force. German troops whispered of the shadow that stalked them through ruined villages, forests, and trenches. A young woman who could decimate patrols and officers alike without ever being seen. The Eastern Front was merciless. Entire divisions were annihilated daily. Civilians fled in terror. Snow, mud, and debris concealed both opportunity and death. It was in this environment that Natalya honed her lethal craft. Her missions became longer, deadlier, and more complex. She was assigned not just to target isolated enemy soldiers, but to disrupt strategic German operations, often operating alone or with only a single spotter. One of her earliest large-scale operations occurred near a fortified German stronghold in Smolensk's outskirts. The village was defended by a company of German soldiers with machine guns and snipers on rooftops. Natalya's objective was simple in theory: weaken enemy command and secure a path for advancing Soviet infantry. She spent 48 hours scouting the village, crawling through snow and mud, observing the enemy's routines. Using rooftops, ruined barns, and broken walls, she established 3 firing nests. Her patience was tested as German patrols circled repeatedly, unaware of the silent hunter observing them. Over the course of the mission, she eliminated 8 officers and several sentries, sowing chaos in the German chain of command. By the time infantry arrived, the enemy was disoriented and demoralized. This mission cemented her reputation for precision and patience. Kovshova faced her first true sniper duels during this campaign. German snipers were dispatched to hunt the female ghost sniper, though they did not know her identity. One by one, she neutralized them from long distances, often firing through windows, ruined walls, and frost-covered foliage. Her calm under fire became legendary. While German snipers sought her, she calculated their every movement. During one encounter, she waited 5 hours without moving, ignoring numbness and fatigue, until the enemy exposed himself while attempting to locate her. One shot later, he fell into the snow. These duels were not just physical tests, they were mental wars, pushing her patience, endurance, and observation skills to the absolute limit. By late 1943, Natalya had accumulated over 80 confirmed kills. Each mission disrupted German operations. Patrols became hesitant, slowing enemy offensives. Officers feared exposure and often avoided forward positions. German troops whispered of a female sniper who could strike without warning. Her presence alone became a psychological weapon. Units she covered reported higher morale and a greater willingness to advance, knowing she would eliminate key threats. Her skill in blending reconnaissance, sniper accuracy, and strategic thinking made her more than a marksman. She was a force multiplier.
Natalya was often tasked with eliminating high-value targets: battalion commanders plotting counterattacks, enemy artillery spotters coordinating shelling, officers attempting to direct panicked troops. In one mission, she observed a German officer rallying soldiers on a hillside. She spent 3 hours silently tracking his movements, adjusting for wind, distance, and camouflage. The officer fell with a single shot, causing immediate confusion and retreat among his men. Such actions demonstrated not only her marksmanship, but her strategic understanding. Every kill had battlefield consequences far beyond the individual soldier.
During the harsh winter months of 1944, Natalya achieved her most lethal streaks. Over 4 missions in 7 days, she eliminated nearly 50 enemy combatants. Enemy snipers were dispatched specifically to hunt her down. She operated independently, often changing positions multiple times per day to avoid detection. Her kills were never reckless. Every shot was carefully calculated for maximum effect. She maintained almost surgical precision, even while under fire from machine guns and artillery. Her division began to rely on her reconnaissance reports, using her observations to direct entire battalion maneuvers. The young sniper's influence on the battlefield was enormous, even though she remained just one soldier among hundreds. German intelligence began circulating warnings about the female sniper. Soldiers reported a shadow moving through the rubble and snow, taking precise shots, disappearing without trace. Her reputation became a psychological weapon. Enemy units hesitated to advance. Officers refused to expose themselves. Patrols became smaller and more cautious. This effect was amplified by her discipline and patience. While other snipers sought fame or acted impulsively, Natalya remained invisible, precise, and lethal. Her defining engagement came when a Soviet outpost was surrounded by German troops. Soviet infantry were pinned down, and supplies were running out. Natalya positioned herself in an abandoned building overlooking the enemy advance. Using a combination of sniper fire and careful observation, she picked off officers and machine gunners, thinning enemy ranks. She protected dozens of Soviet soldiers, allowing reinforcements to arrive and break the encirclement. This mission highlighted her transformational impact. She was no longer just a sniper, she was the difference between survival and annihilation for entire units. By the end of this phase, Natalya had firmly established herself as one of the deadliest snipers on the Eastern Front. She had over 160 confirmed kills. Her actions inspired fear in the enemy and confidence in her comrades. The legend of the ghost sniper was firmly rooted. By early 1944, Natalya Kovshova was no longer just assigned to sniper overwatch or patrol disruption. She had become a strategic asset. Commanders began deploying her to sectors where battles were stalling, morale was collapsing, or German resistance was proving unusually strong. She was now trusted with mission-critical operations, often working with minimal backup, sometimes with only a single spotter, sometimes entirely alone. Her objectives expanded beyond kills. Neutralize German forward command posts, break machine gun nests pinning down infantry, disrupt reinforcement routes, eliminate artillery observers, provide battlefield intelligence in real time. Each mission carried heavier stakes. Failure no longer meant just personal risk, it meant hundreds of Soviet lives lost. One of her most grueling series of missions took place in a dense forest corridor used by German troops as a concealed supply and patrol route. The terrain was brutal. Thick pine forests blocked visibility. Frozen ground made movement painfully slow. Enemy snipers were embedded in treetops. Natalya infiltrated the corridor over multiple nights, establishing rotating sniper nests at different depths of the forest. Over the course of 10 days, she eliminated multiple patrol leaders, disrupted German resupply convoys, neutralized 2 enemy snipers, directed Soviet artillery strikes using her field observations. German troops began rerouting supplies entirely, abandoning the forest corridor after suffering continuous, unexplained casualties. This operation alone reshaped the frontline positioning in that sector. As Soviet forces advanced, battles shifted into urban ruins, destroyed villages, half-collapsed buildings, and cratered streets. Urban sniper warfare demanded a different skill set. Rapid position changes, vertical shooting angles, close-range precision, constant threat of counter-snipers, ambush survival.
Natalya adapted instantly. In one ruined town, she moved through broken attics and basements, used chimneys, stairwells, and shattered windows as firing points, eliminated machine gun crews pinning down infantry units, neutralized a German sniper team attempting to ambush Soviet officers. Her ability to operate inside collapsing buildings under shell fire made her indispensable during urban assaults. Not all missions ended cleanly. On one operation near a bombed railway station, Natalya was spotted by a German patrol. Machine gun fire shredded her firing nest. Brick fragments buried her legs. She remained motionless, feigning death. When the patrol advanced, she eliminated 2 soldiers at close range and escaped under cover of smoke. Another time, an artillery shell detonated less than 20 meters from her position, collapsing the trench wall. She crawled out, bleeding from shrapnel wounds, refused evacuation, and completed the mission. Each close call hardened her further. She did not become reckless, she became more lethal. By this phase of her career, Natalya was no longer operating alone. She was assigned junior snipers to mentor. She taught them how to remain motionless for hours, how to select firing positions that avoided detection, how to read enemy behavior, how to disengage safely, how to survive counter-sniper hunts. Several of her trainees would later become highly effective snipers themselves. Her influence now extended beyond her own rifle. She was shaping the next generation of Soviet battlefield killers. German intelligence finally began to understand the scale of her impact. Enemy snipers were specifically dispatched to hunt her. Patrollers were reorganized, decoy positions were set. German artillery attempted to saturate suspected sniper nests. Leaflets were dropped promising rewards for her capture or death. None of it worked. She continued operating, changing positions constantly, never firing twice from the same nest, using decoys and exploiting enemy mistakes. Her survival rate defied probability. Natalya's presence in a sector now changed operational planning. Soviet commanders delayed offensives until she scouted terrain, asked her to neutralize key targets before infantry assaults, used her intelligence to redirect entire battalions. In one engagement, she eliminated 3 German officers coordinating a counterattack, destroyed a machine gun nest guarding a bridge, provided artillery coordinates that obliterated a reinforcement column. The result? The German counterattack collapsed before it ever began. By mid-1944, her confirmed kills had surpassed 160. She had participated in dozens of high-risk missions. She had survived multiple near-death encounters. She had trained new snipers. She had reshaped multiple battlefield sectors. Among her comrades, she was no longer called a sniper. She was called a weapon. Among the Germans, she was called a curse. As Soviet forces pushed deeper west, resistance intensified. German troops fought desperately to slow the advance. Natalya was deployed to a forward position near a fortified enemy stronghold. Intelligence suggested heavy resistance. Enemy patrol density was high. Counter-sniper teams were active. Artillery strikes were constant. She volunteered to take the most dangerous overwatch position. She knew the risks. She accepted them. Her final battle was approaching. By this point in the war, Natalya Kovshova had become one of the deadliest snipers of the Eastern Front. She had influenced entire operations. She had mentored new killers. She had reshaped frontline tactics. She had survived against impossible odds. But her story was not finished. The battlefield had one last demand.
Late 1944. The Eastern Front was collapsing inward for the German army. Soviet forces were advancing relentlessly, pushing through fortified lines, ruined towns, and heavily defended forest corridors. German resistance had not disappeared. It had become more desperate. and more violent. Natalya Kovshova was deployed with a small Soviet detachment to secure a forward observation position near a strategically critical ridge overlooking a supply corridor. Intelligence indicated that German units were regrouping in the area, possibly preparing a counterattack. The mission objective was clear: observe enemy movement, eliminate officers and patrol leaders, disrupt any attempt to reinforce the sector, hold the position until reinforcements arrived. The terrain was unforgiving. A mixture of broken earth, shattered trees, cratered trenches, and collapsed wooden structures from previous battles. Snow and mud made movement slow. Visibility was poor. Artillery thunder echoed constantly. Natalya volunteered for the most exposed overwatch position. She knew exactly what that meant. The Germans advanced at dawn, not in a mass assault, but in waves of cautious patrols, probing for weaknesses. Natalya's rifle barked once. A German officer collapsed. Minutes later, another shot. A machine gunner dropped behind a sandbag wall. Her presence immediately disrupted the enemy formation. German troops froze. They retreated. They regrouped. Then they tried again. Natalya repositioned, using a secondary nest she had prepared earlier. From there, she eliminated 2 more patrol leaders attempting to flank the Soviet position. Within an hour, the German advance stalled, but it didn't stop. German commanders adjusted their tactics. Instead of frontal movement, they began advancing through the forest edges, using shell fire and suppressive fire to mask their approach. Natalya's detachment came under intense pressure. Machine gun rounds tore through the trench walls. Mortar shells detonated close enough to bury equipment. Communication lines were severed. One by one, Soviet soldiers were wounded or killed. Natalya continued firing. Every shot counted. Every kill delayed the enemy advance. Her ammunition supply dwindled. She switched positions again and again and again, but the Germans kept closing in. After hours of continuous fighting, her rifle clicked empty. Her secondary magazine was gone. Her sidearm rounds were nearly exhausted. German soldiers were now within grenade range. They shouted orders. They threw smoke. They advanced cautiously, aware that a sniper was still hunting them. Natalya fired her last bullets. 2 German soldiers fell. Then silence. She was out of ammunition. The rifle that had made her a legend was now useless. The Germans believed they had won. They moved closer. They called out, ordering her to surrender. They expected fear. They expected compliance. They expected to take her prisoner. Natalya Kovshova did not surrender. She reached into her coat. She pulled out 2 grenades. She waited. She allowed the Germans to get close enough. Then she pulled the pins.
The explosions tore through the trench. German soldiers were thrown back. Shrapnel ripped through bodies. The advancing unit collapsed in chaos. Natalya Kovshova was killed instantly. She took her captors with her. She chose fire over surrender. She chose death over capture. She chose to end her war on her own terms. When Soviet reinforcements finally reached the position, German bodies lay scattered around the trench. Shrapnel had torn through sandbags and earth. Natalya's rifle lay broken beside her. The battlefield told the story. She had held the position alone. She had delayed the German advance long enough for reinforcements to secure the sector. Her last stand had saved dozens of Soviet soldiers. Her final act had inflicted additional casualties on the enemy. Posthumous records confirmed over 160 confirmed kills, dozens of high-value targets, multiple sniper duels won, strategic missions completed, infantry assaults enabled by her overwatch, new snipers trained under her guidance.
She had become one of the deadliest female snipers in military history, and she had died as she lived, unbroken, unyielding, unafraid. Natalya Kovshova was posthumously awarded the Hero of the Soviet Union, the highest honor for valor. Her name was engraved into military records. Schools were named after her. Monuments were erected in her honor. She became a symbol of absolute resistance, not because she was a woman, not because she was a sniper, but because she chose defiance when surrender was easier. Natalya Kovshova's story is not about death, it is about control, about refusing to let the enemy decide her fate, about choosing one final act of defiance over submission. She did not die begging. She did not die captured. She did not die broken. She died fighting. She died killing. She died undefeated. They surrounded her. They thought she was beaten. They believed they had won. They were wrong. Because in her final moment, she proved one last time what she had always been: a weapon, a soldier, a legend. Natalya Kovshova did not survive the war, but her war did not end with her death. It became a story told across generations, a story of precision, of courage, of defiance, of fire.